How many of you have seen the comparison between 5 pounds of fat and 5 pounds of muscle? Whether you've seen the comparison or not, today I'm going to give you a quick reminder as to why it's advantageous to replace high volume, for the most part, useless fat with low volume, high density muscle. A replacement that can change your life forever. So let's start with the basics. As you have seen, 5 pounds of fat takes up more space than 5 pounds of muscle. That's because muscle is much more dense than fat. In formula terms, rho equals mass divided by volume, where the Greek letter rho, which looks like the letter P and represents density, is equal to mass divided by volume. If you recall your science classes, mass is related to weight. Essentially, mass is equal to weight divided by gravity. Anyway, don't worry about all of that today. Just think of density as the package that a particular weight is wrapped in. For instance, think of a beach ball that's about a foot in diameter. Maybe a beach ball like that weighs approximately 1/3 of a pound. Now, there's no doubt at one time or another you've batted one of these types of beach balls around. So in your mind, you have somewhat of an idea how light it is. Now think of a rock. A rock the size of a beach ball would be extremely heavy. So in order to get a rock to be the same weight as the beach ball, we would have to shrink that rock down to a very small size. A really small size. A reasonable estimate would be to shrink the rock down to a diameter of 1 inch. So the same weight for a rock and a beach ball are in completely different packages. Noting the obvious, the beach ball consumes far more space than the rock. Now the differences between fat and muscle aren't quite as extreme as the beach ball and the rock example, but they are pretty extreme. To give a reference point as to the size of 5 pounds of fat, here's a pair of hands holding the 5 pounds of fat. Now imagine replacing that 5 pounds of fat with 5 pounds of muscle. By doing that, you have reduced your volume, which translates into you have become much smaller, literally taking up less space. But even more importantly, the volume shifts to different parts of your body. From an evolutionary standpoint, the volume shifts to a more appealing location on your body. Suppose you watch this video and others and manage to trade 5 pounds of fat for 5 pounds of muscle. So this may translate into a large percentage of that fat coming off the belly area, while your shoulders and upper back tend to become wider and more dense. If you think about it, appearances and health aren't necessarily about weight, but about where that weight is located. It is much healthier and looks much better if you can move the excess blubber from the stomach region to the upper part of the body where you convert it to dense muscle. It's not the easiest thing to do, but let's face it, you owe it to yourself. It's time to treat your body like a temple. In many cases, some have abused their bodies. Some bodies have had to endure inactivity and junk food, especially the poison of sugar. Yeah, maybe you could get away with the junk food as a kid, but think back to that time. Kids, at least in the old days, were constantly moving. Our bodies were like factories that burned thousands of calories daily to produce energy for such things as tag, freeze tag, Marco Polo, dodgeball, racing a friend down the street, body surfing, roller skating, riding bikes, and the list goes on. Most people, when they think of their childhood, they were always moving. Moving like nature intended us to do. Recall the caveman's day consisted of searching much of the day to find food. The rest of the day consisted of building shelter to protect us from the elements and predators. Moreover, the calorie intake for a day ranged from 0 to lots. A bad day for a caveman sometimes meant no food. Yet, many calories were spent in search of food. So we talked a lot about the differences between fat and muscle. And we also talked about how body composition can really change the look of an individual. But a picture is worth 1,000 words. Here's one general example of a person as their percentage of body fat changes. Keep in mind, in each snapshot, this person is still the same weight, but the body fat percentages have changed. Even though he's the same weight, in the 8 to 10% frame, you can see the dense matter has moved to the shoulders, back, and chest, and were reduced in the stomach when compared to the 41% frame. You can't see it here, but the upper legs at 8 to 10% will look muscular too. Here's a chart so you can identify where you are and where you want to go. If using this chart, I think we should all strive to at least stay in the fitness category. For me, I'm a little more strict, especially in the diet area, and I plan to stay in the athlete category for the rest of my life. The way I look at it is that your body is your most precious commodity, so investing a lot of time, money, and mindful thinking into it makes perfect sense. Start by not letting your taste buds punish the rest of your body. Next, don't let electronics prevent you from moving your body. The caveman was designed to eat foods that were not processed, and there was no grocery store, so he had to move, hunt, or gather to eat. You should act no differently, because if you do act differently, your body will start sending warnings. These warning lights could represent potentially serious illness. Although more likely these warning signals can be reversed, let's heed caution. Now, just a couple more things. One thing is that if you decide to work toward a fit lifestyle, don't use the BMI scale, which stands for the Body Mass Index scale. The BMI scale labels a person's health taking into account the variables of height and weight. It can become very inaccurate as one starts trading fat for muscle. Remember, muscle is much heavier than fat. I know many people who have been in the overweight BMI category when in reality they were optimal or athletic using a body fat scale. Get a body fat scale. That will give you a better idea of your progress. Just log it away in your mind that weight is too variable to use for any sort of analysis. One way to prove it is by weighing yourself and then drink a gallon of water. Or let's say drink 3/4 of a gallon so we don't overdo it. Also, don't drink it all in one sitting. Now, after you have consumed the water, weigh yourself again. Voila! You are 5 pounds or more heavier than you were earlier in the day. Your weight has changed, but you haven't lost fat or gained muscle. You might have as well have just stood on the scale with the water in your hands. Moral of the story? Don't measure weight. The body fat scale and the mirror are your best tools to classify your health. Finally, I want to end with some positive statements about muscle. As you start to develop muscle and lose fat, you will feel like becoming more active. When you're in shape, you just want to do more active things, and when you're not in shape, you tend to do more sedentary things. The final thing for today about muscle is that it seems to take more energy to keep muscle alive. In non-scientific terms, muscle burns more fuel. The active part of what muscle does is the better part, but even at rest, I've seen estimates that 5 pounds of muscle burns 20 calories a day. That may not seem like a lot, but that's at rest, meaning you're not doing anything. Say you do resistance training and gain 5 pounds of new muscle in your legs. That means because muscle is an active tissue that you're going to lose 2 pounds of fat per year for doing nothing, along with lots more weight being lost for doing the things to maintain that muscle. I think we all get the point by now. Muscle good, fat bad. Statistically, thinner, more muscular people will live to be older and healthier than their heavier counterparts. Here at Alien Institute, we believe in the whole package, which is a strong mind and a strong body. So every day, we make a commitment toward developing ourselves to high levels of brains and brawn. Okay, Alien Institute crew, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Also continue learning by watching more AI videos.